as we've gone through this process. So yeah, that's.
So what have we got? New cars?
Yeah, we'll just go through this stuff now because Mike's already starting to click through the car select stuff. So one of the things we wanted to do with the console version was to create a sense of parity between rally and rallycross in terms of the experience when you first enter the game. Now, one of the things we did to do that was to introduce a classic rallycross class, which features a single make kind of 1970 spec Mini that's based on that kind of single make series that you get in kind of local rallycross. Certainly here in the UK, it's quite a popular form of entry into the sport. And this car is essentially the same price as the Mini for the 1960s rally. So if you enter the game on console and if you start a fresh game on PC after the update goes live, what you'll get is the choice between the 1960s Rally Mini or the 1970s Rallycross Classic. Then we've also got, from there you graduate in Rallycross to the Rallycross 1600s. In here we've got the Opel Corsa Super 1600, the Renault Clio and the Peugeot 207. So these are all cars that have either been in this season or in very recent years. Front wheel drive, normally aspirated, reasonably decent amount of performance to them. They're really good fun. They're really on a knife edge, the handling, because you know, all the weight's over the front axle. You kind of like the back end go, a lot of lift off oversteer. So they're really fun to drive, but they offer a really nice kind of graduation to then get into the supercars, because obviously up until this point the supercars have been your only rallycross in the game.
Chuck you in at the deep end and expect you to find your feet.
The deepest of deep ends. So yeah, it's I think it's nice to allow players to graduate into that section of the game. Then we've also got some additions to our rally classes. So the Renault Alpine A110. Rear-wheel drive, very rear-engined as well, so this is a very different handling dynamic to anything you've experienced. It's hanging behind the rear axle rather than over it, so this is like you would get with a Porsche and or a VW Beetle or something. So the beauty of this car is it drives very differently to the other cars in the 60s class, and it offers a real differential there. We have gone for a lower powered one so that it is much closer to the Mini and the Fulvia in terms of performance. So the other car we've added is into the 1980s rear-wheel drive class, and that's the Renault 5 Turbo, so mid-engined rear-wheel drive. This is the car that was more Group 4 than Group B. This is before it got all the maxi kit on it and stuff. But this is the car that won the Monte Carlo Rally in the early 80s. It's a great car, again, very different handling dynamic to the other cars within this class. Offers a real differential in there, but it's great fun. And there you can see a Renault livery with more yellow than black, which I think the Formula One team probably should have done during their announce, but we're not here to talk about Formula One. And then last but not least, and actually some of the guys on the gossip thread have been asking us about what was that other car, because we talked about it a long time ago and then it all went quiet and we left those guys guessing. But that other car is in fact Sebastian Loeb's Pikes Peak car, which is only available on the tarmac only version of Pikes Peak, so you won't see it in this section that Mike's going through here. But it's the Peugeot 208 T16 Pikes Peak, and it's a car that we had developed earlier on, and then we had some issues with the agreements, but then those issues got resolved, and we're delighted to have it in there. If you look closely at the car, you'll see Sebastian Loeb's signature on the side. So it's the real deal, and one that we're really pleased to have in, because as you know, we've had the full tarmac version of Pikes Peak right from the start, but no real car that has driven on that pure tarmac version of the track. So it was really important for us to have a car that represents that modern side of Pikes Peak, as well as the kind of heroes that we've got in there from the gravel section. Which leads me nicely on to the fact that we've also got the full gravel Pikes Peak as an introduction into this game. So
there was a lot of the gossip thread in that announcement.
Yeah, I mean, for me, just the way that those original cars drove on the latter part of the mixed always felt so much better than what they felt like on tarmac. Those cars weren't really tarmac cars. and we were kind of forcing them to do something they didn't want to do. So to give them that pure full gravel version, I think is really important, and I think the fact that you can just be driving that Peugeot 405 on the loose stuff right from the bottom of the hill makes all the difference.
And we mix that into the championship progression as well. So if you start a hill climb championship, now you'll get to race that full gravel version.
Yeah. So a couple of points on that. So for all of the gravel stuff, that feeds in the championships, and obviously you can still use the cars that you've always been able to use, but because the Peugeot 208 is only allowed on the tarmac version, that's only going to be available in custom events and any online events that are focused on that.
We'll be running dailies with that car for sure.
And that's something that's come from both Peugeot and Red Bull. They wanted us to only run that car on the surface on which it ran. They didn't want it driving around on other surfaces, which is kind of weird because I'm pretty sure I've seen some screenshots of some other games out there with it driving in rallycross races, but maybe they want to talk to them about that. We don't.
Best to get involved.
No. Who am I to get involved? So yeah, I think that's the content, that's the tracks and the cars. But we've also added a couple of features, and I think one of the labour of loves for me, and one of the big things that I really wanted to add to Dirt Rally was the sense of teaching players how to drive a rally car. Now we haven't gone for the full-blown rally school because the body of work that required was too much to get in at such short notice, and we are aware of the number of people out there that have been asking us to do this kind of stuff. But what I did think would help was at least to get some video guides in there, some guides that essentially explain the theory behind rally driving and what it is that you have to do with the car, the mindset that you have to be in to be able to manipulate one of these cars down a rally stage. Because currently in Dirt Rally, when you pick the game up, the first thing you do is arrive on a stage and drive, and if you've got no concept of how to play with the weight shift, how to make sure that the car's set up for the corner properly, you're really in at the deep end, and it can be quite a frustrating experience when you're constantly falling off the edge of the road. So what I'm hoping is that these guides give you a window into what it is to drive one of these cars off-road, with the kind of theory that you have to apply, so that when you do then go out onto the stages, you start to remember some of the stuff that was said in those guides, and you start to apply that theory, and hopefully that really gives you that sort of sense of understanding of why this game is perhaps quite challenging if you have been finding it challenging up to this point, or if you start to find it challenging when you first play.
I think there's a layer of depth that people are going to find sort of beyond what they're aware of, because like you say, we throw them in a mini to get started and it's slow enough for them to find their feet, but we never really teach them those advanced levels of how to drive a rally car.
Yeah, it's one of the key things. I mean, if you go to a rally school to learn to drive a rally car, they don't just chuck you in the car and say, "Hey, go and drive a rally car." They give you a bit of an explanation of what's going to be expected of you and what's different about driving a car off-road compared to driving your normal road car to the shops or whatever. So, yeah, that's the kind of thing that we've gone with, and really pleased to get them in.
Cool.
Obviously, it's really important to note as well that all of this stuff is getting added as a free update to the PC version. So when the console game hits the shelves, we'll be doing that free update to PC. And all of the refinements, the tweaks, so the stuff that you've seen in the front end, the additional content, all the rally guides, any additional liveries will all get added into the PC version free of charge, because ultimately we just want to say thank you to all those PC users that have been there with us from the start and have supported us, and those who are just joining us for the road now. But you know, ultimately it's a debt of gratitude we owe to the PC guys for all their help with and making it what it is today. So yeah, I think the only other thing is to talk about the slightly more technical side of things, which is that we've always said we're targeting 60 frames per second for Dirt Rally on console. I'm not sure whether the stream is showing it off in the best light. We've tried to set it up so that we're running at 720p 60 on the stream, but I want to make it clear that the game is running at 1080p at 60 frames per second here, and we've already got that on PS4. Yep. For Xbox, we're hoping to get as much 1080 as we possibly can, but ultimately anywhere where the performance is struggling, and I think it's fair to say that the Xbox does tend to struggle a bit more than the PS4, then we'll be dynamically switching that down to 900, but on a need-to basis. So I'm not just going to blanket say, hey, it's 900 for Xbox, because that'd be an easy thing for us to do. We want to try and give as much 1080 as we can, 1080 love to the Xbox.
But the frame rate is the priority.
Frame rate is the priority, and actually, because it's on console, because we can be so much more confident that all the machines out there are the same and that everybody is playing on pretty much identical hardware, we can be a lot more confident the game experience that everyone will be getting on console is the same. It's one of the things that we struggle with a little bit on PC, and I think it's fair to say that because everyone's hardware is different, because even when you have two virtually identical PC rigs, there's something different about one that is affecting the other. It means that, you know, not everyone is getting that smooth kind of 60 frames per second experience, and some people might be pushing the graphics a little bit harder than they should be, and it just every frame you get under 60 is going to knock the smoothness and the way that the game feels in your hand. And so, you know, with console, because we can confidently say 60 frames, I feel that the game plays actually a bit smoother.
Feels great.
Certainly smoother than what I play at work on our slightly more dog-eared PCs, but you know, much more in tune with what I play at home on my slightly more ninja spec PC, because I'm obviously a high roller.
Of course, with your wheel and your seat.
Yeah, with my wheel and my seat and my room that I have to go into because my wife doesn't approve too downstairs away.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we're really happy with how things have gone. We've got 2 months to go before release. Maybe?
Yeah, 2 months to go before release, but like 48 hours until submission.
Yeah. So yeah, to go back to the reason why we didn't have a crowd of people behind us is because we are going into sub this evening. So do we still send a courier on a motorbike with a disc on the back, or do we now upload it digitally? I
think it's more time efficient to send them on a bike.
So yeah.
At one point, somebody used to fly from here to America, drop the discs off, and then fly back again. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't
Things
think
have changed.
Well, in the last 2 years, I hope so. So that's all the sort of console-y stuff covered.
Yeah, I guess
the new content.
The one other bit to mention is the Colin McCrae liveries. So the Ford Sierra RS Cosworth, the Ford Escort Mark II, and perhaps the most important one for me, and I think for any of the sort of fans of the series, the Super Group A are all getting proper McCrae liveries on them, and you know, that's thanks to the tireless work that our licensing department have been doing specifically on the Subaru Impreza. You know, getting the permissions to properly feature a lot of the brands on that livery, not to do some knockoff version of it, but to do the proper version of that game, of that livery in the game, is really, really important. And perhaps not so important for the PC guys. We know that you guys like to mod your liveries, and that kind of means that you can put whatever you want in there. But for the console guys, that is a big deal, to be able to represent that car properly. So yeah, really happy. Obviously there are a few little bits and pieces, like a couple of the brands that we couldn't get on there. We couldn't get the legit number plate as well, but a lot of the other stuff is well, the majority of the important stuff, including the flying bananas, is on that livery, and that's what's important. Cool. So yeah, so we'll just let Robson, you know, continue to play the game in the background.
Did you make it up Pikes Peak?
He made it up a bit of Pikes Peak. He didn't do the full track.
Okay.
But you know, it did give a good idea of how brutal that Peugeot 208 is. We've now jumped into the Renault Alpine, and he's doing a pretty good job of keeping it on the straight and narrow through these icy bits.
Probably say that Mike's playing without any audio co-driver calls because we had a last-minute technical hiccup.
Yeah, so to get audio into the stream, he can't have it on his headset, and so yeah, he's being brave.
Yeah, he's cut though. I've seen him cut.
Yeah, well, we'll see if that comes back to haunt him later on. Yeah. But no, it's good.
Cool. So better answer some community questions then, I think.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of questions come in. I think a lot of them are the same question.
Yeah, well, you've given me a list of names here who've asked the same question. So thanks to Optimators, Cheesinium, Andreas Grieser, Alessandro Giorgio Bonotto, Sepp Muller, Konstantinos Wagenvox, Gulyas Tamas, Alexander Ines, Alexander Gross, and JB Grussen. So apologies in advance if I mispronounce any of your names, but that you will want to know, do you plan on adding any more stages to Dirt Rally in any form, or is that saved for the sequel, which I'm hoping will be your next title?
So that is a really good question, and I think the first thing to say is what we're trying to do here is get the console version out first and foremost, and that's our absolute priority, as you can see from the lack of crowd behind us in the studio.
There's no one, it'd be me and you.
But the next thing is to get the game out there on the shelf and see how the console audience respond to Dirt Rally. We know that our PC audience love it from what we can tell. We know that it's been reviewed well and that the user scores are great. And we know that a lot of you have gone out there and put your money down on it, and that is fantastic. And thank you very much for that. But now we need to see how the game does on console and kind of take it from there. But there are some big questions as to whether we can do a better job of not just adding new content, because that's cool for the artists and the level designers to be working on.
We need something to do.
But as game designers and programmers, we need some cool stuff to be working on too at the same time. And so, there are bigger questions as to whether we actually go and look at how Dirt Rally has done well, and some areas that it could be improved in, and I think it's fair to say there are some areas in there that we would love to improve a great deal, that really would benefit from us looking at potentially doing another version of it, or a new version of it with some of that extra stuff in there. So right now we're still weighing up the options, but
we've got a lot of ideas.
I think the key thing is this is it. More ideas than we could throw at Dirt Rally in content packs. What I will say is that the response to it has been hugely positive, and that gives us a great deal of confidence with the decisions that we're making going forwards. So hopefully that answers all the DLC questions that we got. Sorry if we didn't read your name out, or if we butchered your name.
Sorry.
But yeah, hopefully that has answered that.
Cool. Confused Shelf has asked a few questions, all about the new cars. First off, more of a request than a question. Can we see the spec cards for all the new vehicles? So we think we covered that in your little talk through the new content.
Yeah, hopefully
it answered everything.
You'll be able to pick that up from either the stream, or you'll be able to get it from the YouTube video, which hopefully will be in the right aspect ratio when we upload it. But hopefully that stuff's in there. If not, there'll be more preview stuff, and we can probably hook you up with that information direct if that's still causing an issue. So.
Yep. Next question about the new Mini. Is it based on a real rallycross car, or was it just a fantasy design?
So it's obviously based off a 70s Mini that's had all its lights and kind of stuff that you don't really need in rallycross removed. It's very much based on what we see in the Clubman Championships out there, but it's not based on a specific car that somebody runs. So I guess in some ways it's an amalgamation of that entire class of Minis all rolled up into one single car that obviously makes it a single make but a single vehicle version within the game. It's not based on any specific car, but it's from around the 70s. It's got a decent amount of horsepower in it that will allow you to have a good enough race without it being so powerful that we're throwing you in at the deep end. Should feel like it's got a little bit more poke than the 60s Mini, I think I certainly have a lot more fun driving around the really, really small tracks that we put in our rallycross circuits in that car than I do trying to do it in the supercar. So I think it's the right car for those kind of clubman circuits.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool. Question about the Alpine. Is it is the new Alpine A110 the 1600 model, or an earlier, smaller displacement model?
It's an earlier, smaller displacement model. We're looking somewhere around I think it's the the 1300. Don't know if it's the S or not, but it's certainly from the sort of late 60s era. It's been put in at that level to make it more fair to the other cars within the class.
Yep.
It is still a powerful car. The drive is in the rear, so if you can handle this car through the stages, you may find it is a little bit quicker, but it's not going to be like the 1600 was in the 1970s. It's been brought much closer to what the other cars do in that class.
Cool. Neuro asks about the PC update. They're coming right after the final consumer VR devices start shipping at the end of March, including Oculus Rift and Vive. What will VR support be like then?
Yeah, I'm hoping we continue to make improvements on it. I mean, ultimately, we've been supporting Oculus, since we launched DiRT Rally. Although it has been a little bit flaky in some areas, but we've just constantly improved and iterated on that stuff. We do continually speak with Oculus. We get the latest dev kits whenever they've got them available.
Yep.
And so, VR, we're a racing game. I think a rally racing game benefits from VR a lot, so it's great for us to have that in. And we do want to continually improve on it, and that, I think that point also applies across the whole PC game. If there are things that we need to improve, things that we need to patch in, things that we need to fix, the intent is to continue to support, and anything that's going over into support for patches on console, we do continue to do that. It's not like once this game arrives on the shelves on console, that's it. No. So yeah.
Cool. Alexander Neustedt says, could it be possible that DiRT Rally gets a paint editor like Forza that would solve all livery problems? Bit of an issue with that.
So essentially no, not DiRT Rally.
Yeah.
It's something that it's one of those things that will require a large body of work, and it's not the sort of thing that we'll just be able to patch in or update in. I think it's something that we need to look at how we've built our cars fundamentally, and that's talking about the way that the liveries are layered up. Currently, if you're modding the livery on PC, you know that you can drop that stuff into various folders and do various tweaks to get that stuff running. To do it from a game perspective and allow the changes that you make to update directly into the game is a very different proposition. Not to mention the complexities of the UI that brings with it, and that is a huge body of work for us to do, especially at the sort of levels that are being talked about there. So. No, not for DiRT Rally, and sorry to disappoint, but we've got some potential thoughts about how we can support this kind of stuff in future on console, and I don't think it necessarily needs to be an all bells and whistles livery editor. I think there are some other ways that we can look at doing
around it. Yeah. Okay. Question about a new track from Lachi and Spiteri. Will you guys ever add Australia?
So again, having answered the DLC question.
So I guess this is more of what do you think of Australia as
a
rally location?
And as a rally location, I think it's great. I think it's one of the palettes that we don't really have for our current roster of tracks. I think there's the flora and fauna is very different, but actually the sorts of roads that you drive down are quite challenging and quite different as well. So yeah, I think Australia is on the list of where we go next with our locations. But that's not to say that that's ahead of other stuff like potentially New Zealand or Ireland or any of these other locations that people have been asking us for. They're all in the mix at the minute, and we've just got to work out where we're going.
Cool. Kjell Bjorvik asks, will you support the Fanatec handbrake on consoles?
Yeah, so I haven't actually seen it working firsthand, but I'm fairly confident that this is the case, that as long as you've got a Fanatec base and you're plugging it into that, then it should work, because the way the consoles are working is just from one USB input into the console. You get all of the things plugged into the base of the Fanatec and then plug it into the console. It should work, but I haven't actually seen it firsthand. So
well, the one thing we can do is I'll find out after this and get in touch with me on Twitter, and I'll let you know whether that works or not, but we think it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Levi Heitzer asks, I just tried my first Masters Championship. Do you want me to cry?
Yep.
You wouldn't mind? Thanks very much.
That's actually quite an important question. A lot of people have asked whether we've kind of dumbed the game down for console, because those console players, they're not the PC Master Race, they're not going to be able to handle it and all that kind of stuff. So we have made a few tweaks here and there to the way that certainly the earlier tiers AI are driving and the challenge that they're giving you. They're still offering a good challenge, but we're just making it a little bit easier to get near the podium.
That's not even
that kind of stuff.
a console thing, is it? I mean, that'll be in the PC version.
We're bringing that
as
into
well.
the PC version as well, and that's actually off the back of reading some of the reviews of players that have come on board that weren't in early access, that have played the game as a full experience and have seen it firsthand for the first time. Their initial impressions are that we are being a little bit hard on them at the start of the game, so we've softened that stuff up, but it's not dumbing down. Masters will still be masters, so you will still be crying.
Sorry.
Sorry. Not sorry.
Marius Wraith and Shane Sullivan ask about a retro rallycross class, and will we ever see the Group B cars around Lyddon Hill?
Again, it's one of those in the wish list bucket. I think it makes perfect sense. We've got some great iconic Group B cars. I actually think if we're going to do it, we're going to need to do it properly and turn them into the rallycross cars that they became.
So you wouldn't just pick a Group B rally car and put it on there?
No, we did that. We did that in the DiRT 3, and it was a bit of a sort of easy option from, hey, let's mash this content with that content and get new content. Hey, game design.
Content times content equals.
But no, I think if we're going to do Legend Rallycross, it needs to be with the Legend cars as they were. So I think in answer to your question, it's certainly on my list of wants.
Yep. Cool. Stavros Dak asks, the graphics on consoles with what graphics settings on PC will be equivalent? So it's not quite max spec.
No,
so high-end PC graphics settings, I think we're aiming
again,
for.
it's tricky to see in the stream. I imagine I don't think we've heard anyone saying that the stream's broken yet. So hopefully that's
fine.
That's all good. But as you can see, the lighting, the VFX, it's all there. We sort of aimed for what was high as a graphical kind of benchmark. And then we've tweaked bits here and there to make sure that the overall package is as smooth and as possible at 60. Obviously, we run optimizations. Those optimizations should feed back into the PC wherever possible as well. But yeah, I mean, what you see on this screen here is the game about to go into its final submission.
And this isn't even yesterday's build. While you were in your meeting this afternoon, we switched it out for today's build, which fixed an issue with the steering wheel. So this is the most up-to-date code.
Yep.
That will maybe end up sending to Sony.
Yeah, so I think it looks great. I really do. I'm so happy with how it looks. I think it's a bit of an eye opener for some of the competition out there as well. And I think it's.
Is it going to put the cat amongst the pigeons?
Is it going to put the cat amongst the pigeons? Not as much as some other racing games might do, but yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right. These are from Twitter now. Greg Flinchbar, friend of the game, asks, how long have you known about the 208? It was a nice surprise after you hinted at a car for Pikes Peak full tarmac.
So we knew that we wanted the 208 before we even entered early access. In fact, some of the journos that came in for that preview, I think it was 2 weeks before we put the game up on early access, played that car on the D-box.
It was like a last-minute rug pull, wasn't it?
Yeah, so unfortunately we weren't able to get it in when we wanted to, and it kind of sat in the background and we weren't hearing anything, and it took a while for us to make contact with the people who needed to give us the permissions for it. And eventually it got to a point where it wouldn't have made sense to just chuck it into the PC version at the last minute. We decided to bring it in on the console. So it was probably about December time where we finally got a conclusion on it. And even then, I think we've had to make some small tweaks to it in 2016. So it would, even if we'd wanted to put it in the PC version, we probably wouldn't have been allowed to do it. So it made sense to bring it in with this update pack and with the other cars that we've got. So
hope you like it.
That other car.
Yeah.
Masterbomb
Blaster asks, if you could improve one area or feature of DiRT Rally or add something new, if money and time were no object, what would it be?
If money and time were no object,
I'd actually go for a rally school. I think like a fully functional tutorial area.
Yeah, but I think it would need to be like something so awesome. Like no other game had ever done teaching as good as that, I think. And
like everything, when we do something, we want to do it properly.
Exactly.
Same with the Group B rallycross.
Exactly. I think that's a good one. For me, it would probably be Surfaced Egg, I think.
Okay.
The sense of a rally stage evolving over the course of a rally, so that even if you are the only car on the stage, you get the sense that other cars have come before you and other cars will come later as well.
So if you're seeded down the running order, you get a much difficult.
Exactly, because it's one of the key things that makes rallying what it is, and to represent that properly is obviously a huge body of work for us to do, but I think is something that we should be doing eventually.
Okay. World Rally Blog ask, will you be adding livery packs for each new season from 1 to 10, or are things like track or pace note editor possible?
So currently the plan isn't to add livery packs, but as we said, we know at this stage, and pace note editors, the way that we've done our pace notes are quite limiting in terms of editing them, although I know that there's some guys out there that are currently looking at doing some tweaks to the Polish, or they're not tweaking the Polish because we don't have Polish in there, but they're trying to add a Polish language pack.
So that's pull the audio files and replace them as they are.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so that if those guys are listening, and I hope they are, I'm not ignoring the email that you sent me. I've sent that stuff through to our audio team, and they are looking into it, but they have been absolutely swamped with stuff. But if there is any way that we can support that kind of modding, then yeah, absolutely want to get that done, because we can't support every language under the sun. But if there are people out there that are willing to spend the time and effort doing that on our behalf, then brilliant, and we should be allowing you to put that into the game. So, yeah, we are looking into it, and we are planning to help out.
Yeah. The editor situation is a bit more tricky, isn't it? Because you can't edit the calls that we currently got in our stages.
Yeah, because our stages are recorded as, essentially a long script that we then do cut up into chunks so that we can trigger them at the various points down the stage. It's not a library of calls that you can stick wherever you want. So yeah, it's harder for us to allow that kind of flexibility that you would want. So yeah, again, it's one of those things that we would like to improve.
We know how we do it, it's just working out how.
Yep.
Okay, one from Martin Van Hoyk. Hi Martin. Perhaps a rude question, especially after all the hard work, but is there a possibility for a car class / career revamp?
It's an incredibly rude question. So there isn't really. I'll just be frank and say that the revamping the whole career is not going to happen. Jumbling up the car classes for Dirt Rally again isn't really going to make sense for us. But I think it's stuff that we've had feedback from both players and a lot of the journalists who've been playing the game, and it's definitely one of the areas that we would like to improve in future. So we are aware of perhaps our car classes being done not necessarily in an arbitrary way, but in a way that is much more about the decades. It's not necessarily these, like for example, classic example we've got here, the Renault 5 Turbo that you see here did not race directly against the Ford Sierra and the BMW E30 M3 because they were from different parts of the 80s, but we've slapped them together into one class.
Because one was 81 and one was 89.
Yeah, but what we could do in future is do what they do in real life and look at engine displacements and drivetrains and start to group cars together like that. So you could get a car from 1973 competing against a car from 1993, but because
cool
they're
online event. Actually.
Well, exactly, yeah, because they're the same class, they should be on competitive terms with one another, and that's the sort of thing that I can see making more sense in future. So the question's absolutely valid, but doing it for Dirt Rally I think might not be, it won't be feasible.
Cool. ELVIJSJ on Twitter asks, what adjustments have you made for the console release, knowing that the majority of the players use Gamepad, not wheel?
As little as possible, actually. So we have traditionally led on console with our game development here, and so we've got a wealth of experience on making the game feel great on console that perhaps some other sim developers out there haven't. So we've brought a lot of that knowledge to the table, although we have reworked the way that our pad play works. We've taken a lot of our understanding of how the game should feel and implemented that. So actually, I would say for the console version now, you've got a lot more things that you can tweak that perhaps you wouldn't have been able to before, because we kept a lot of those settings off to the side. So yeah, I think most of the tweaks have come from just getting the game running as smoothly as possible, and getting the game running on the console. But they're not big changes. Like the core gameplay feel is all right. So yeah, I mean, we've tried to keep the experience as close as possible, because ultimately we don't want to shortchange console users. With DiRT.
I mean, there's specific things we've done on each console which is specific to that platform. So, for example, Mike Evett asked about the rumble triggers on Xbox One, which are hooked up, so they're fully supported, Mike.
Yep.
PlayStation Vita remote play
Yeah.
is supported, and we've got custom controls for that, so you can customize it however you want. So it's like, take what we've got which works on PC and then do everything we can on console to support those platforms.
Yeah, to talk a little bit more about the rumble triggers, we're using it as a way of like essentially informing you when the car's losing its grip.
Yep.
Actually, no, sorry. The triggers themselves are for when you're spinning the wheels with your accelerator,
Okay,
and when
the controller rumbles.
the brakes are locking up. So that's on the specific trigger rumbles. But we've done a lot of work, because the pads have got much higher fidelity in their motors. We've done a lot of work on making sure that the sense of the car losing grip is represented in the different motors within the pad, so you'll know when the front end of the car's losing grip or the back end of the car's losing grip, and that should start to feel quite intuitive in terms of that feedback that you're getting, the haptics that you're getting from the pad. So not only have we done the work on the triggers for the Xbox One, but also the PlayStation 4 controller sees some improvements as well. So I think it's really good, and the game feels great. It's, speaking as honestly as possible, it is still probably a nicer experience on a wheel, as it should be, because it's a simulation racing game.
You spend a lot of money on that wheel rig as well.
Exactly, but being able to play the game on the pad is a very important thing for us when we're making the game for consoles, and you shouldn't feel like you cannot play this game on the pad at all.
I play on pad at my desk, and I'll be playing on pad at home, and it feels great to me. So
cool.
Okay, next question, Chris Jacobs.
That guy.
I've heard of him. Will career mode on console have the same promotion/relegation mechanics?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's exactly the same. Isn't it?
It's exactly the same.
So you're still not going to get promoted.
Well, he might get a slightly easier ride until about professional level, I think, and then it might start to get a little bit more challenging. Yeah, then the tears will start to roll again.
Okay, Bagani asks, do you have any regrets about the content in the game, and is there something you wish you did differently? Which I think we've basically just covered in the discussion.
Well, I mean, that was, I guess the deformable stuff is, and the surface evolution stuff is a feature. I mean, in terms of content regrets, probably not having as much. Well, nothing that we haven't addressed. I guess it's just the ones that got away, the cars that we would have loved to have had, but for whatever reason we couldn't get the deal signed, so we weren't able to put them in the game. There's some obvious omissions from our car list that is a shame, but that doesn't mean we've given up on them forever. But yeah, I guess some of the big cars that people know what they want, and I want them too because I'm a rally fan. So yeah.
Well, that actually feeds into our next question from Diego. Did you guys become rally fans after working on the game, and do you go and see races now?
Well,
You've been into rally your whole life, haven't you?
I've been into rally, since having pictures of Group B cars on my bedroom wall back in the 80s. But I think the cool thing from working on this game has been seeing people like yourself starting to come to rallies with me. In fact, last year you came and watched John and I compete on the set stage. other members of the studio have gone out to Sweetland for the WRC events each year since 2012. I think we took a trip. So this year was the first year we didn't actually. So yeah, I mean, it's, you know, when you make something that represents the sport for real, you know, people obviously start to engage with it more in the studio, and it's great to see that passion starting to spread.
It's something we want to encourage, because the more they understand about a real, you know, rally event, the more authentic we can make the game feel. So
yeah, and actually that then feeds into making rally a more popular sport, you know, by virtue of the fact that we're making a better representation of the sport. And, you know, ultimately the more people that are interested in rally, the more people that want to play our game, but that has to feed back into making gamers interested in rally as well, and I'm hoping that that's what we can do with Dirt Rally.
Cool. This one's for me. Xavier Villardel asks, what's going on with the texture bug on AMD cards? When will you fix it? It's a tricky one because there's a couple of AMD issues. I wasn't aware of this, but I've been and looked at your videos on YouTube, and there's a couple of things going on. One of them is a driver issue with the new AMD cards on Windows 10, which we are working on a fix for. The other one came up yesterday on console, and it sort of behaves differently to the way it behaves on PC. You see sort of the surface of the car go black. It's like there's something wrong with the reflection map. So again, we are working on it. We're not quite sure what's causing it, but yeah, we'll hopefully get something out for the PC patch for the same time as console, because we've still got more time to work on that. We've got literally 2 months until release for that. We haven't got as much lead time on console.
And no submissions as well, so well, we submit to ourselves.
Yeah, we've got an internal quality bar. Cool. So we are working on it, and I'll let you know what's going on. Okay, next question. Smurf asks, will the Thrustmaster T100 wheel be supported on PS4?
Yes, it will.
It is?
So.
Henry Ashman asks, are there plans for cross-platform league support when the console versions come out? No, unfortunately not. It's a really tricky one. It's a conversation between Microsoft and Sony and ourselves. Our server system doesn't support it at the moment. It's possibly something that we can look at in the future, but it's not something that's going to happen for Dirt Rally, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you know, Sony and Microsoft, they love to talk to one another. So.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest hurdle to overcome, is having data from different platforms ending up on the same place. So if you set a time on Xbox One, your friend can see that pop up on PlayStation 4. You know, it's not something that traditionally has been something we've been able to do, but you know, now that we're in the new console generation, maybe we can have those talks again.
Yeah, and ultimately,
cool.
it is a conversation to have, but you know, we need to be able to support it well at our end. They need to it at their end, and so it's more than we could have done in the time that we've had to bring this onto console.
Okay. Chris Lang asks, are there any New Zealand locations in the game, and can I suggest the Race to the Sky here in New Zealand?
So there aren't. You can suggest Race to the Sky, but it's a real tricky one. It's something that hasn't happened for a long time out in New Zealand, and then suddenly last year it popped up, and as you said, McCrae ended up winning it, and we suddenly got all excited because this other hill climb that you know, probably the second most iconic hill climb in terms of big hill climb cars. I know that Mount Washington in America is quite well known, but that's more of a rally car focused hill climb. You know, Race to the Sky is a great event. The trouble is that now seems to have you know, ended as soon as it had started. We believe that the landowners aren't particularly keen on working with one another and with the event anymore, which makes it incredibly difficult for us to then approach people who are already arguing with one another to represent their license in our game. So it's a really interesting point about New Zealand though, because I believe that some of the best rally stages in the world are out in New Zealand, and I think if we were going to go out to New Zealand to do some research, we would be looking at Wanga Coast and those kind of stages rather than perhaps Race to the Sky. So hopefully that answers your question. It's on our wish list and something we're considering.
Yep, thank you. Kieran Poole, did you ever have to reduce the horsepower in some of the Group B cars for balance?
So we haven't artificially reduced any of the cars. What we tended to do was look at cars that fitted within the group as best as possible, and you know, cars have multiple renditions over their lifespan. Even within a particular evolution, they go to different rallies across the year, and tweaks and refinements are made. And so what we tended to do was find the car that sat the best within the class and use that. However, some cars we were very much had our hand forced by the manufacturers, and so we had to do things in a certain way. So we've what we've ended up with, and we tried to make it as balanced as possible, but we didn't want to artificially balance the class. So some cars will perform better, you know, as they did in real life. So yeah, I think hopefully that answers your question about Group B.
Cool, it does. So Mike's going to do a daily for us now, live on stage.
Mm-hmm.
So as you
pressure.
know, you only get one shot at this, Mike, but it is a Ford car, and I know you love Ford cars. So no, you won't be able to hear anything. You've got the co-driver calls on screen. And if it makes you feel any better, I'll do a no audio run later and we'll compare our times. So Mike's going to do a daily.
Mm-hmm.
We're down to a last community question, and then we'll have a special guest joining us.
Yep.
So last question from Orion: will the new S1600 cars be available on rally stages?
Unfortunately, they won't. They have been licensed as rallycross cars without the lights, without a lot of the stuff that they need to be rally cars, like a passenger seat with a co-driver in it and all of that kind of stuff.
Well,
so it would essentially be a new batch of cars that we would need to introduce to do it, and unfortunately we only had the cars that we've made for this. However, again, looking to the future, we know that people are looking for more modern front-wheel drive cars that represent how you graduate into rally as a sport nowadays, without necessarily going through the sort of greatest hits from the classic era. So yeah, it's one of the areas that we want to improve upon for sure. Whether it's Super 1600s or whether it's R3 cars and R2 cars, we don't know at this point.
Cool. I just realised the brutal conditions that I put Robson up against. It always rains in the daily.
It does always rain in the daily. Who was it that complained about that quite a lot?
I don't know. Some guy on Twitter.
Some guy
all
on
the
Twitter.
time. Forgotten what his name is already. It's winter, so that's why the weather's always bad at the moment.
Yeah. Have you seen what it's like outside at the minute?
All right, so that's the end of the questions. Maybe we should introduce our new guest.
Yes.
Christina, do you want to come and join us on the sofa?
I'll shuffle it up so that we don't trash all of the microphones and everything.
Hello.
Okay, so this is Christina. Christina, the DiRT community. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, as some of you guys know, I joined the team at Codemasters in December, just gone. I'm a big rally fan and big motor racing fan in general. I've loved gaming, so kind of saw this come up. My kind of marketing background kind of was involved as well. It was the meeting of like two of my favourite things, and then kind of ended up here and really enjoying it so far. So, loving life, especially with the launch coming up and having all the great feedback. I feel like it's a very good time to have joined Codemasters.
Yeah,
so it's feeling good. Yeah.
Made it easy for you, right?
Yeah, cheers guys.
Sure, you're as busy as we are at the moment. I mean, we're working on the game and you're busy promoting it and talking to people on social media.
So we've got loads of exciting things coming up really. So we've just obviously released the trailer. We've got the community trailer, which I had a preview out earlier this week, and it looks
cool.
It looks absolutely fantastic. We've got a lot of footage in from the community, so thanks if you sent some stuff in. Hoping to share that with you relatively soon, and then we've got a couple of other really exciting things in the works as well.
Top secret stuff.
Oh yeah, top secret until we launch it. Yep.
Okay. I don't know. Do you know about that stuff?
I don't know anything about it. So we've apparently got insufficient disk space, but hopefully that's not appearing in the stream.
Luckily, we're almost out of time. I'm just going to.
That's not on the stream.
Cool.
Okay, everything's great.
Okay.
So what's been the coolest thing about working at Codemasters?
You can legitimately just sit at your desk and play video games. And
Don't tell them that. So my girlfriend looks like that all day.
Yeah, I was going to say it's actively encouraged. It's not anymore.
Okay.
But
it's not mandatory,
yeah, and
but
kind
we can get away with it.
Yeah, and obviously being surrounded by kind of like some of the most kind of creative people and really great minds, and talking with different territories and distributors and the fans, it's kind of an amazing experience, and you're quite close to a community, whereas in previous or kind of different areas of industry you're not really. So it's kind of been nice getting to know you all, albeit quietly, because I'm still lurking quite a lot at the minute, but I'll be a little bit more vocal in the weeks and months to come, I'm sure.
What's been the worst thing?
The worst thing? Being asked questions that I might know answers to but can't say anything about yet.
Yeah.
Because I want to get really excited about it, but I can't because there's an embargo or something. So when
As soon as the stream's over, I want to find out what we're doing next.
Yeah. So like everything leading up to last Tuesday, it was really exciting because I was being asked questions I knew answers to, but couldn't really drop anything. Although when it did drop, it was worth the wait because the kind of response was pretty incredible.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've just noticed that the best time on the daily at the minute is 6 seconds, thanks to our wonderful QA
someone's been
department.
cheating.
So that's not somebody in Codemasters sanctioning people who hack the game. That's just our own dev tools,
Definitively not.
allowing them to finish the event quickly and test out a bug. I'm assuming. So don't worry about that.
Yep.
All is good.
Other than that, probably a pretty competitive time, Robson. So it's not too bad.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, he says, smugly in the corner.
We'll compare that against Borkammer's time tomorrow and see how you get on. Cool. All right. Well, I think that about wraps up for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Christina for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Paul, for your genius insight as always.
That's all right.
And
aim
we'll
to
see.
please.
When's the next show?
We don't know yet. These
Whenever.
are kind of being done on an ad hoc basis.
Someone was going to say ad hoc today.
But hopefully we'll be able to do something a bit more as we get closer to release.
Maybe console launch day.
Yeah. I mean, we should probably show off the new.
She knows something.
I do not know anything. I don't know what you're on about. This is just a wipe the grin from my face. It's fine.
Yeah, we should probably do something with the PC version as well nearer the time. But yeah, we'll let you know as and when. And thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, and watching.
And watching. Yeah. Thanks for
All right,
coming.
see you next time.
Left 2 long, tightens to 1. Six through posts. 100 through post, keep left over long crest, caution braking, 100, 150 past junction, open hairpin left. Into right 6. Left 6 over crest, tightens to 5, continues at 80. Into left 5, keep in 100. Right 5 long, and